Nick, welcome to Unstuck, man. It's so good to see you. Thank you for taking time to be on today.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate you having me. I love connecting with you any chance I can. It's a blessing to be on with you.
When we're together, good times had by all, for sure.
Always.
Today, though, we want to talk about some of what you've been learning. You've been in the relational sales business for a long time now, and you've had an amazing career doing things you're passionate about and using your natural talents. And when I look at you, I see how somebody just took what they have and how they worked and then just applied it. And I work with school districts and young people, and I'm coaching young leaders. And I think there's real opportunities for people in sales. But I think it feels so big, and there's such a it feels huge, right? To be a good salesperson.
Mhm.
I think there's an approach, and it's how you embody sales that really can open the door for more people to have a good career where they can use their gifts and make a difference. And it doesn't have to be war. It can really be a great career. And so that's why I think your story is special, because you do it different and your approach is different and your passion is different. And so I'm so glad you came on. I'm going to start way back though, back at like when you grew up.
Yeah,
Tell me
thank you.
about the neighborhood you grew up in. What was that like? And what's kind of the family feel as you were hanging out where you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I tell people I'm from a city called Rochester. It's a little north of Detroit, on the east side of the state in Oakland County. I think the funny thing when I tell people I'm from Rochester, because what Rochester is now, it's a very, very wealthy community. It was wealthy then too. I mean, there were parts of Rochester if you went north that were really wealthy.
Yeah,
Uh, I grew up in an apartment. My
that's
mom,
fair
single
enough.
mom, she worked at a hospital. A lot of times had two jobs to be able to, to support the family. Our apartment was 1,000 square feet. It's funny, I went back, it was her 70th birthday, just a couple of months ago, actually, in January, and I took the kids back and drove past my old apartment and showed them where I was from, and, we don't live in a grand house right now, but we really didn't live in a grand house when I was a kid. My kids right now have an issue with boredom, and I showed them they have 3 of them, right? They have 3 people that they can hang out with. I have 3
Yeah.
kids, and I was
Wow.
just me. I was an only child, and I showed them what I used to do when I was bored, and we had a carport, and when I was bored, I threw a ball against the wall, and I caught it. Like, I took grounders by myself. I had a tennis racket, and I hit forehands and backhands
Just the
against
carport.
this is against a carport wall,
I
right?
love
That
it.
was my childhood, and
Yeah,
again,
man.
it was a great childhood. I have a very, very loving mom, a very loving dad, a very great support system. But when I tell people I'm from Rochester, I think a lot of times I get pigeonholed into thinking that I grew up with a lot of wealth and I had a lot of, opportunities that were given to me, and that's just not true. I've been
Yeah.
grinding since I was 12 years old. My first job ever was working at the country club as a caddy.
Oh,
And,
at 12.
I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
It was about 2 miles. I used to have to ride my bike up there. It was about a 2-mile ride at 6:30 in the morning and sit there with the other caddies and wait for, my call to go out there and do it. And I always did 2 bags because I made more money, right? Instead, if I'm gonna do it, I might as well do 2 bags, and I would stay
Get your
there all
cheddar,
day.
man.
That's it. I was out there. I might as well do it. But it was a quick realization when I got out there, and I don't know, it was probably about a month into being a caddy, and I ended up getting my loop. That's what it's called. You get your loop. And it happened to be this gentleman and his son who happened to be a peer of mine in school. And it was at that moment I realized that I was in a different class, right? I realized at a pretty young age that I was going to have to probably grind it out a little bit harder than some people were. And to be honest with you, that's what got me into sales, because I just knew that that was one job that I knew that I could do where I could probably have some control over
Yeah.
over how much I made.
How did you know that? Like, how did you know you could do it? Like, what did you see in yourself, or what did people give you as feedback when you were a kid that told you, man, you could be a salesperson? Where did that idea come from?
Everybody said that I could hustle. Everybody said that I worked hard, right? I mean, I'm 5'9". I was never the biggest kid in school. I always loved sports, right? I was kind of gritty, right? I didn't have the most athleticism, but I was always like when I played tennis or when I played basketball, I wasn't the biggest kid on the court. I wasn't the most skilled, but I always seemed to outwork people. And someone told me that if you can outwork people, you can have a career in sales.
Hmm,
And I think that's part of what made me realize, like, hey, maybe I should do something along those lines. And I didn't really know what a sales career looked like,
yeah.
but someone told me, like, hey, you work really hard, like you'll be really good in sales one day. So I thought that was interesting.
So if you had a list of principles you teach young people now about sales, is that still true that hard work is the foundation of it? You have to outwork people, or has that idea changed at all for you?
Oh, gosh, I mean, I can't even, I would double down on it. I mean, I would
Yeah.
absolutely double down on it. I mean, sales is the greatest job in the world because you can be on all the time or you can be off all the time. I mean, sales can be a 24-hour a day job or it cannot be. And you can choose how much you really want to make. I think in a lot of cases, you can choose how much you really want to sell. Um, and I mean, it's really one thing that I think you have complete control over your career.
Yeah. Let's go back to the basics of sales. I got so many questions that pop out of my mind. But like what's the difference between selling a light for phone cameras versus selling relationship, group membership, right? Like all sales ain't the same, is it?
I mean, in theory, it's not. I mean, you're selling different products,
Mhm.
right? I mean, but at the end of the day, your ability to connect with your client, I think, is one of the things that if you can do that well, people still buy from people they like. It's crazy to think that in a world that's so automated in that, AI matters, everything's done with, an email funnel, your Instagram algorithm, right? People still do business with people that they connect with.
Mm,
And I think if you can find a common ground within the first 2 minutes of meeting someone, it will drastically increase your chances of closing the deal. If that, I
that's
hate
right.
I hate using that term, but it drastically improves your chances of making a sale if you can
Yeah.
connect with someone.
I don't know that I've ever got a signature before I got a connection on a proposal. You know what I
Eh,
mean? When you're selling,
Absolutely. Yeah.
like I don't think they don't come from nowhere. It usually is connection. I think there's a big deal to that. And so you had hustle, you were a connector, and then you sold in different arenas. Talk about some of the different
Yeah.
environments you took your talent.
Gosh, you have to go way back. I mean, my first sales job, I mean, honestly, was in retail, right? I was
Okay.
16 years old and there was a new mall that opened up. It was called Angels Crossing in Oakland County, Auburn Hills.
Good.
And they had a job fair, right? And I went, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go work there. That's a job I think I could do in nights and weekends. And I applied for a couple different jobs, and there was one I liked fashion a little bit. I like to dress well. I mean, when you grow up in Rochester, you kind of have to, right? You kind of have to keep up with the Joneses. But for me, in order to dress well, my mom couldn't buy me Abercrombie jeans. She couldn't buy me the
Abercrombie.
nicest of
Yeah.
clothes.
Yeah, man.
So I had
Yeah.
to make the money, right? I had to figure out a way to make money in order to keep up with the Joneses there, and that was part of the
Mhm.
reason that I worked so hard is because I wanted to dress well. So there
And you
was
were
a
16.
yeah, I was 16 years old,
I mean,
right? But
that's
I
serious
wanted
business
to
at
dress
that
well.
time.
Yeah, you had to make sure that you were dialed in school, right? I mean, you'd get the pretty
Oh,
girls,
yeah.
you had to be You had to look the part.
Lord have mercy.
So I applied for a job at Brooks Brothers, which is a men's clothing store, pretty
Sure.
high end men's clothing
Yeah, oh,
store.
yeah.
At Angels Crossing, it was the outlet store though, so it wasn't the Somerset Brooks Brothers, but it was still nice
Sure.
clothes.
Yeah.
So I applied for a job there, got the job, and that was my job for a couple of years when I was in high school. And so there was really, so you got paid hourly, you didn't get paid commission, but there was
Mm,
one way that you could get bonuses. And the
okay.
one way that you could get a bonus was by selling credit cards.
Oh,
When that
snap.
customer comes up to the counter after you got done helping them, right? You could make a little extra by getting them to sign up for the Brooks Brothers credit card.
Watch out.
So that was me, right? I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
again, there were different bonuses that you could get based on how many you sold, but I was up against it, right? There were people that were there that were working 6 days a week. I worked 3, right?
Wow.
I'm in
Yeah, yeah,
school,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
I got other things to do. I had practice and I had school, but I also
Yep.
had to have a job. But I was the number one credit card salesperson in 3 days
Yeah.
over some of the people that were working 6. But it didn't
Mhm.
happen at the counter, right? It happened throughout my interaction
Sure.
with people that were there, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it just happened with, we didn't even
On
talk
your
about
way to
credit.
finding some
Yeah, we
pants.
were yeah, and we weren't
Yeah.
talking about credit cards when we were trying on clothes and we were buying
Right?
suits and we were matching up ties and shirts, right? But we were connecting and we were talking and we were building a relationship. By the time they got up to the counter, I said, "Yeah, it's a lot of money, I mean, you could save 20% and if just got to sign up for the credit card, and I mean, you're going to save, $90 right now.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do it?"
Yeah, but you ain't right. I told my I tore all my credit up at 18 for a 2 liter of Mountain Dew at some fair signing up for my first credit card. I didn't have a clue getting talked to by people like you. Now,
That
okay,
was
so
that was
we
my
got
first
Brooks
sales
Brothers.
lesson.
Yeah, no, you got it. And
Yep.
I think it sounds like if you
Yeah.
fast forwarded to now,
Yeah.
what more is there than that
That was
to
it.
your approach?
I still do the same thing now, only, I mean, I'm selling something I truly believe in, right? I mean,
Yeah,
back then, I was just selling something because I knew that that was how I was gonna get a little extra money,
get
right?
them
I didn't know
jeans.
any better. I didn't know any better,
Yeah,
right? But
yeah.
I do the same things now
Mm.
that I did 30 years ago. I just sell something I truly, truly believe in, right?
Yeah, let's then take a snapshot at that, right? I wanna let's let's talk about if you were talking to your 16-year-old Brooks Brothers self and you needed him to have a show enough wisdom lesson on sales. Let's say there's 3 things you want that 16-year-old self to know about this career, about how to approach it, about how to show up in that space in an authentic way. Like, what's most important now that you know that he didn't know then?
That's a great question. I mean, I would say the first thing is if you're going to be in sales, you better love what you're selling. You better
Mm,
believe in it. You better
mm.
be passionate about it. And you really better believe that whatever you're selling is going to help someone.
Why? Why does that matter? If you went in the game for money, why does that matter?
Because your ability to be passionate about what you're selling will translate into the customer. People can hear your energy on the phone. Believe it or not, this is one thing that I've actually learned. They can hear your smile on the phone.
That's right.
Before the days of Zoom, which wasn't that long ago, right? When you're on the phone, it doesn't matter if you're calling to order a pizza or you're
That's right.
calling to sell, a AI product or something. They hear your happiness.
Mm.
So if you're smiling on the phone and you're happy and you're energetic, people people are drawn to that. It's a magnet. It really is. People are drawn to positive energy.
And you can't manufacture that. It's really got to come from your passion for it. That's why you
Oh,
say,
100%,
yeah,
100%.
because we
But
can
again,
smell
going
fake.
back to selling that product that you love or believe in, it's way easier to do that It's way easier to have that energy if you really believe and love what you're selling. So I would say figure out what you're passionate about, figure out what you love, and if you want to be in sales, go sell that.
Mm. Yeah. Wow. I like that. That's point number one. 16-year-old Nick just heard that one. You gotta love it. You gotta be passionate about it. You gotta believe in it.
And I had a half a dozen sales jobs in between that one and what I do now
Yeah.
that I didn't love it,
Mm. And
right?
that's why it was half a dozen.
There you go,
Right.
right? Yeah,
Okay. That's critical. What
that's
else
a
would
big
you say?
I think chasing good leadership is
Mm.
important in sales. There's a
Mm.
s there there's a sea of money out there. If you wanna be in sales, there's a ton of money out there.
Okay.
But great sales leaders, there's just a few of them. And when I say a few, it's all relative, right, to the amount that are out there, but there's a very small percentage that are out there to help you. And I think the best sales leaders, they're not trying to put greatness in you,
Mm.
they're trying to pull it out of you.
I got it.
And if you can find someone that wants to coach you rather than just tell you, but they want to coach you into being the best version of yourself and will bring you along and will teach you, that is something that I just don't think there's that many of. I think some sales leaders can be extremely micromanaging,
Sure.
and that can be very, very hard.
It's a pressure game, man. It's a
And
pressure
it comes from
game.
top down. I try
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
empathetic in knowing that that sales manager or that sales leader is getting the pressure from the CEO. That
Sure.
CEO is getting the pressure from his board or his stakeholders. So I try to be empathetic in knowing that. However, there has to then be a way to pull that greatness out of your salespeople.
Well, and the truth is, man, I'm imagining most sales leaders don't get to be sales leaders because of their ability to coach and get the best out of people. They're sales leaders because they were the best salesperson on the
That's it.
team, and to pay
Yeah.
them more, they gave them management
They
responsibilities,
gave
right? And
management.
so it's not the prerequisite, which is your number two, is about that the ability for a leader to get the best out of their team, and that's not even a part of how people get promoted. So really, you really have to look for that sales leadership. You have to know what you're looking for, and when you interview and you're looking for it because it ain't necessarily going to be there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, and not every salesperson can be a sales manager or a sales leader.
Correct.
I mean,
That's
there
in
were
every role.
10 years ago, I was a
Yeah.
great salesperson, right? But I was not ready to lead anybody. I still may not be fully ready to lead everybody. I still
I
love to
hear you.
sell too. I don't want to be pulled
Yeah.
off the floor. I don't want to be pulled out of making
Right.
the deals, right?
Yeah.
But there's, again, back
Can
to your point, the best salesperson oftentimes gets promoted to be a sales leader, but they're
yeah.
not ready to lead.
Yeah.
They were born to be selling.
Yeah.
And when they have to then go lead, that nobody teaches them how to lead.
Yeah. That's tough.
It's
But
tough.
that's how and I guess in sales, that's how you figure it out. Is you have to navigate those spaces and have some good and some
Yeah.
tough and some stuff that works and some stuff that doesn't. And I think that has helped you get to where you are now. Now, this podcast is called Unstuck. And in every episode, we ask about a time you were stuck or things you were doing, you just couldn't get out of the blocks. And we want to hear a story about how a stuck situation became unstuck for you in sales. Is there any that you might remember that would just be a story that helps people know you can be in stuck places and not have to stop?
Yeah. I mean, listen, sales, there's gonna be a lot of things that you don't have control over.
Mm,
You could be selling something that that person wants. They want it really bad,
yeah.
but maybe they don't have the budget for it.
Hmm.
You may be selling something that that person says, "Yes, I'm in," but they need financing, and you go to get the financing, can't get the financing, right? So you can go through it's sales is like sports sometimes. You can go through slumps, right? You can go through batting slumps. You have to understand that in sales, it's kind of like a batting average, right? Shohei Ohtani, he hits 300 and he's the greatest. He's the greatest player in the game right now.
Mm,
He gets out 7 out of 10 times. And that's going to happen in sales. It's actually probably even more. You're going to hear no so often that it's going to frustrate you.
mm,
And you're going to have times in your life that you're going to go through slumps. And it's going to naturally change how you approach the day. You may have had a really bad day and you got to get up the next morning, you got to come to work
you
and you
sure
got to
do.
go and do it all over again after you
You
just
sure.
got shut out.
That's
You
right.
just went 0 for 4 at the plate. And
Oof,
guess what? There's 162 games in baseball. You gotta be you're
I
leading
keep
off the
rolling,
next
baby. Yeah,
day. You're
right.
leading off. You have
Yeah,
to
man.
show up and you have to go and the best way to get out of a slump is to get a hit, right? Because it changes your confidence.
Yeah.
And the best way to get out of a sales slump is to make a sale because it
Mm,
completely changes your mindset. People can hear you on the phone when you're struggling. When you've heard no 5 or 6 times in a row, that next phone call, they know. They know this person's having a bad day. Their energy level is down.
that's right.
Firstly, people also know when you're hot, right? They can feel your energy, right? Like, oh man, he's got something. He's got something to sell, right? He believes in what he's doing right now. And I'll tell you,
It's
there's
almost like you
no
just wanna
greater feeling.
join the party. You wanna join the
Oh,
team.
they feel left out.
Yeah,
They feel
man.
like, oh man, this guy's got what I gotta buy it. Right? He sounds energy, sounds passionate. So figuring out a way to keep that passion and energy when you're in a slump is one of the things that's the hardest thing to do, but is the most rewarding. You have to approach every single call as if you just got off the phone with the biggest deal of your life.
Yeah, man. Why thank you for that answer. Why are salespeople misunderstood? Sometimes disliked. I guess if there were a list of, professions that maybe either people don't like or misunderstand, I would imagine salespeople are somewhere on it. Why? What don't people get about sales?
Yeah, I mean, in entertainment depicted salespeople a certain way, right?
Crooks.
The 70s, the 80s, the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
90s,
you're right.
you saw a salesperson in a short sleeve button down with a tie, with a mustache, with a French fry hanging out. That's how they depicted salespeople in the movies. All right. Now that's one way. The other way is, salespeople are for the longest time, and there's still a lot of salespeople that get paid like this, where they get paid on commission, right? So there are salespeople that their livelihood it all depends on what they sell, right? So I mean, salespeople for the longest time that are just paid on commission, they some might do whatever it takes to make a sale because they're putting food on the table. So again, I try to be empathetic in some salespeople, knowing that like, hey, they might have a tough job, right? My first job, really in professional sales, goes back to an old stereotype of a salesperson, and that's in used cars. That was my first job out of college in
Okay,
sales, was
okay.
a used car salesman.
Yeah. And you don't have control over what's under the hood?
Nothing. I didn't know where the hood was. I didn't know where half the things were on a car. My dad he's been in the car business for 45 years. When I got out of college, I did sales and business marketing. Yeah, I asked him, I was like, hey, what should I do? And he said, you should try, working in car sales, right? It's a good way to learn. It's a good, it's a good industry. And I said, okay, where should I go? And he looked up, a couple of dealerships that are in the area. He lives on the east side of the state, so he didn't really know, but God bless him. He put me in the right position to go apply at Harold Ziegler,
There you go.
which is right there on Stadium Drive here in Kalamazoo.
That's
And
right.
I walked in there and I was, 23 years old. I said, I need a job. No car
Why not?
experience, no sales
Yeah.
experience really whatsoever. And, God bless the person that hired me. He said, it was a Thursday. He's like, be here Monday. We start at 8 o'clock. Get ready to roll. And I'm
We'll
like,
teach you.
I wasn't ready. I was interviewing for a job. I figured I'm gonna have to come back for a second interview. I feel like I'm gonna have to do all this stuff just
No,
to get
no,
the
bro.
job. He's
You
like, be
start
here
next
Monday.
week.
I'm like, oh
That's
man,
right.
I'm going into the fire. Like, what did I just
Yeah,
do? I don't know where the brake pads are.
that's right.
So I was
You bet you
nervous. I
figured
was
it out.
really nervous. My first week, 2, 3, 4 weeks getting in there. Over time, going back to being able to make a friend.
Mm.
This isn't me patting myself on the back, but again, I didn't know anything about cars. But my first year there, I got salesman of the year. I sold the most cars out of anybody in the dealership. 25
Pure
people,
grit.
30 people that were there at the dealership. I was number
Wow.
one.
Wow.
Didn't know anything. Didn't know a thing. But I knew how to take good care of people. And I knew how to make a friend. And I knew how to figure out a way to work together to solve the problem that they had. And the problem they had was they needed a car. And
Yeah,
they needed to make it affordable, and they needed someone they can trust because there was a reason they were showing up where we were. This is before internet car sales was a thing. You didn't go online and find cars online. Now you go online, you bought the car before you even show up at the dealership.
that's right.
Back when
It's a
I
whole nother
started
game.
doing this, people drove on the lot looking for a
They
car.
do. You couldn't buy one unless you looked at it with your own two eyes
That's it.
in
That's it.
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna get you out of here on this one, man. If we're talking to business leaders who have sales teams, people, nations, you're thinking about hiring a salesperson, outside of the revenue goal, how do you know your sales team is healthy?
Yeah, I think, Tim, you remember working at Southwest Michigan First, and there's
I do.
there's an old there's an old axiom we used to use, and that was you are the CEO of your own responsibility.
That's right.
And if you have a sales team that believes that they are the CEOs of their day and they are the CEOs of their life,
They're
and
owning it.
you empowered them, right? You empowered them and they embraced it. Because you can empower salespeople to do their own thing, but if they don't embrace it and they choose to choose to cheat, they choose to fluff off and don't do the work, well, then it didn't work. But if you have a sales team that embraced your culture of you're the CEO of your own responsibility, then you have a team that can take over the world. You don't have to be involved. You know they're doing the job because they feel
They own it.
like they own their day. They're the CEO of their day. They're the CEO of their client base. They're the CEO of everything that they do.
And
You
if
could
you pick
try.
the person with that hustle and with the relationship stuff and with the, if you go back to what you were telling your 16-year-old self, if you can get that kind of talent and that kind of passion, it sounds like that's the sweet spot for sales.
There's two things you have control over, and there's two things you have to look at with salespeople. Do they have a great attitude, and do they put forth maximum effort? Because really, those are really the only two things you can control in your life.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah.
can't control whether that person can get financing or not. You can't control the economy. You can't control the president. You can't control any of that, but you can control how hard you work, and you can control how happy you are doing it. And if you do those two things, I believe it's impossible to fail at sales.
Nick, how can people follow you and your work online?
Yeah, I don't have a huge social media presence as some salespeople do, but I believe, firmly in LinkedIn. I love, I post more pictures probably of my family on Instagram, at Nick._Riashi. Facebook, I use it to really follow for birthdays. I open it up every morning to say, hey, which clients and friends of mine have birthday
Yeah,
today? Because I'm a
it's
big
not a
texter. I
sales
text
strategy
everybody
for you.
their birthday. If I see it's their
That's right.
birthday, I text them, happy birthday. That's it.
I love it. I
Yep.
love it. All right,
Yep.
and then they consult the neck dot or
Anytime, yeah. Nick at consultantconnect.org or NRIASHI at Southwest Michigan First, all spelled out.com. Tim, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for all that you do and for leading people in our community.